I am about to have Michael write a letter up. I'll give you some background. I don't know if I brought this up to you, Moss, but I was present here on Thursday. I want to say, was it Thursday, Peters?
Every day is just blending together for me.
I had witnessed the marshals saying, if X, Y, and Z, you have probable cause to press transaction or whatever. But the manner by which it was done would very clearly lead to confusion, in my opinion. I asked the question, are you guys going to pull folks aside and, like, tell them exactly how to arrive at that? Because if you're telling them blanketly, you may have officers do something inappropriately because they themselves have to articulate it. Another marshal came up to the podium and said, we don't handle training. That's on them. And that kind of pissed me off, quite frankly, for a number of reasons. One is the misguidance of it. Number two is how you going to stand over here and talk down to the officers while simultaneously not provide, like, resolution. And the third was,
excuse me.
Yep. No, you're good. Regardless, Trig ended up asking for Espinosa to post something, like some kind of notice out. The next day, the same thing happened. So I pulled aside Nova, Espinosa, and Anna. Anna's the one that said they don't train. And I asked them a very simple question. I said, look, don't you guys think this is, like, a little, like, not productive? Like, you know, constantly coming up here and saying, you got to do this, but then not explaining it through, or, like, are you going to high command with these problems that you're seeing so that they can resolve it? Like, what is it? What are you solving here by standing up here and just, like, talking down to cops? Like, do you think, how's that going to, like, actually make things better? And it kind of turned into a big, Peters was with me then. It turned into quite a bit of a, how would you describe it, Peters?
A show of deflection? I don't,
Yeah.
a show of smoke and mirrors?
Yeah. So,
hello.
Ultimately, I
Oh,
spoke to a marshal about it, Doc in particular, earlier. And I asked him the question, like, Doc, are you aware that these things are happening? Who do I talk to about this? Because I am concerned that there is a picture being painted by the marshals onto members of LSPD where they're being told, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. But are these conversations making their way to high command? Like, I am aware of it because I'm at these meetings, but Daisy and Peters aren't always here. So how did they know that these problems even exist? Are you going to them directly so that they can resolve it? The conversation didn't really go very far. It was, the best way I can describe it is I walked away from that. I hung up the phone with what felt like a brain tumor emanating from the back of my fucking skull, in which I was told, well, I don't know if this is an issue. Maybe we are going to high command. We should probably go to PNT, which doesn't make any sense because, from my understanding, PNT trains your cadets, not informs. Bobby, we're busy.
Oh, yeah. You know, I just came to reasonably suspect that a crime has been committed.
Bobby, I swear to God, if you don't get on patrol, I'm going to send you off duty.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes,
ma'am. The conclusion for me was as follows, is I'm rather sick and tired of this shit. And my question is, are the marshals coming to you with their issues?
Hey. Should I?
Yes, please leave.
Because if they are not doing that, and likely regardless, I plan on.
They aren't. So they have approached us about some individual officer like complaints or things they're looking into, but they don't approach us about like large or like inherent issues that they're finding within the
Mm.
PD.
Yeah,
Fairfax, sorry.
for me, this kind of creates a. So here's kind of the way that I'm approaching this: is I need to ensure that our law enforcement is operating to the best of their ability. If the marshals are finding issues with particular officers or a pattern of officers doing things that are unaligned with the law or whatever, that they need to be bringing that information to high command of the LSPD so they can find a resolution to it. But if they are A, not doing that, or B, instead just like pretty much shit talking or just waving their dick around in a meeting, not only is that not productive, but it's fucking toxic as shit. And quite frankly, after that phone call I had, I'm not interested in dialogue anymore from those who I look, I think that some of these people are fucking bored and for way too
Yeah,
long.
I mean, that's what it is. And
Yeah.
Peters and I have kind of talked a little bit about the marshals and about the bullshit that they do. And at this point, I'm kind of the mindset of they're not here to help us. That is not the purpose of the marshals. The purpose of the marshals is to investigate and prosecute officers first and foremost. So if they find that there's misconduct, they just fucking need to actually do something about it and stop with this like bullshit back and forth or like coming
Witch
up to the
hunting.
podium and intimidating officers.
Yeah.
Just fucking start pressing charges against officers.
Agreed.
Like, literally do anything.
Well,
You're right. Like, it feels like witch hunting. It feels unproductive. And even this conversation right now is like, we shouldn't be even having this conversation. They
Agreed.
waste so much of my time and I'm over it. So at this point, I'm like, do something or don't do something. I don't give a shit.
I will say
Like,
one thing
do
is
your job or don't do your job, but like
Yeah.
don't waste people's times.
well, so and this is kind of where it kind of expands into other matters, right? As the way it's been described to me is their oversight, and the legislation kind of gives like some vagueness as to where their job begins and where it ends. Take for example, I was just over there while Ma was telling Peters that they had a Marshal Nova come up to their scene at Bay City and took over the scene and started instructing officers how to charge people. That is insane.
She can do that. Like the marshals have jurisdictional authority over everyone.
How? So help me understand. How do you tell somebody how to? How do you tell another officer how to charge somebody? That inherently means that officer that is pressing the charges on behest of somebody else may not be able to articulate said charges. And what made it worse is it sounded like the charges were incorrect because the charge was to press criminal. You'd have to ask Ma. It sounded like charge him with like gun charges when the guy didn't even have a weapon.
I'll talk to Ma about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if somebody is instructing someone else, like if the marshals take over a scene, like the consequences should fall on the marshals.
Yes.
I think all of that just needs to be documented, when people take over scenes. But no, the marshals have jurisdictional authority to take over and lead scenes. So
my plan, and I've given Michael the notes, is to I'm gonna put the marshals on notice, specifically outlining my observation and my, call it a recommendation or an expectation, that if they are finding these things, that they need to be directed in writing to members of LSPD High Command so they can resolve said issues. My intent of this is that going forward, post letter, if they stop fucking around with your shit, I will spend every last dime of the county budget filing impeachments.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like at the end of the day, if there are issues, like they need to be bringing it up to us so that way we can create policies around these issues. Like just making an announcement at the meeting does fuck all.
No, that's
Without
exactly it.
like any kind of follow up. Like if they were making announcements at the meetings and following up with like MDT announcements, in which then like Peters and I could be like, what's this about? But you're right, like Peters and I are not at the meetings every day, so unless somebody tells us, I have no clue. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
It makes it worse in my eyes, because if they're coming in here and effectively functioning as members of high command and instructing your officers to behave or do things a certain way, and y'all do not know about this, you are now creating a non-unified guidance. You can come in and recommend something, and you could have your reasons and logic behind it. They could recommend something completely different. And if none of that is codified, reviewed, etc., it becomes a concern. And keep in mind, I don't think half these fucking marshals even know what the fuck they're doing. So I don't even agree on the basis of...
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they found them in a fucking grocery store and they fucking gave them badges. I mean, like, with all due respect. Actually, zero respect, quite frankly, after I heard what Daisy had to say up here. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I probably would not have taken this route had Doc even said just simply, let me see what's going on and let me find resolution. Instead, he just played, I don't know. It was like, you know, when you're talking to Ventura and he's got an excuse for everything and doesn't want to like draw his line. That's what it was. And there was also statements made in there about, I brought to his attention, I'm like, are you looking into what's going on with these like fucking leaks with shit, with the raid and whatnot? And he had the audacity to state, are you sure you want me to look into it? It's an LSPD raid. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? It's very obvious to me that members of all departments were involved. The reason why that pissed me off, and stop me if I've already told you this, but as far as I'm aware, there was a lot of deputies involved. They had responsibility over this. And if the marshals use this as a means to target Den and the LSPD, it is underlinedly obstruction of justice. And if they do not agree, and an officer wanted to be spiteful going forward, then there is no wrongdoing if they start open up another person's investigative reports and start meddling with it. And if that's the kind of environment the marshals want, that doesn't seem like one that is kind of baked in the lens of law and order. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. It like I think what it comes down to is like, you know, the marshals have to. You know what? Never mind. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know. So are you gonna speak to the marshals about bringing things to us? Do you want me to speak to them?
I'm gonna write this letter so it's public, the same way I did with the other thing, because as dog shit as Angel's response was, literally everything we pointed out, the DOJ changed anyways. So the moment that letter is open and highlights some issues and concerns, then they have a duty to resolve it. Otherwise, they open themselves up for impeachment. It's going to be written in a way that is... I'll let you see the letter in advance. I would recommend on your end that you should have some form of... The way that I've been seeing these guys operate is the same reason we started doing these open letters. is that I don't think you can have honest conversations anymore in this environment, and that if they have concerns, I would, if I were you, make it so that if marshals find issues with your officers, issues with the LSPD, pattern behavior with charges, that they should write a report and give it to high command and notify them that they have given it to them. Otherwise, I'm not going to speak with the marshals because I know that they're going to misconstrue everything I'm saying, twist it up, and turn it into something else. So
Yeah.
I feel like you should probably do very similar for your own protection.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't like. I think it's very obvious. I don't trust the marshals. I don't think that they have any intentions of like bettering or improving the PD. I think that it's just like a power grab, and it's malicious in my opinion. Like their job is inherently malicious.
I agree with you. I asked them to define what oversight meant. They can't even fucking do that. Like, what does that mean? Like, wave your dick around. It still pisses me off that there's been no assistance for the Hydra raid, and I just see it as very clearly, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it that much more. I think we're both on the same page in regards to this. But like I said, I'm going to start taking action because to me at this point, this sort of behavior does not help. It just is destructive as shit. And,
Yeah.
if they don't get their fucking things in order, it's going to be exposed. And if they want to bully around LSPD, they're about to meet a bigger bully. And,
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
All right. I gotta check on Peters. He 13 alpha'd. But
Okay. All right.
thank you for speaking to me.
Absolutely. I want to give you a heads up before we did this so it didn't come out of left field.
No, I appreciate that.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right.
All
Gotta
right.
Run.
You stay
Hi,
safe.
Daisy.
Bye, Michael.
All
Wanna
right.
talk with Leah, quick.
Yeah, let's talk to Leah.
Okay. Where do you want to meet her?
We can meet her at let's do the monument.